Hello, this is Ross Turk. I lead the Global Developer Evangelism team for Alcatel-Lucent. I'm part of a brand new division of our company, and I want to tell you about our approach to web services and the network. But first, I'd like to start at the beginning by talking a little bit about our company, Alcatel-Lucent. I'm not a salesperson, and I'm not a marketing droid, and so some of this might be a little bit boring, and some of it might be a little bit remedial, so I won't take very long to do this. But I think it's important because I'm willing to bet that, as a developer, you probably aren't very familiar with what we do. We do this. And while it's very complex and intimidating, it's really kind of simple. We make a lot of stuff that gets loaded into trucks and bolted into racks and generally sits there making whirring noises and using electricity, although we're green lately, so not a whole lot of electricity. But basically, these things don't do anything visually interesting. They probably blink a lot. But every time you use the internet at home or at work, every time you make a telephone call or check movie listings on your smartphone, your bits are going through our products. In the past, developers tried to build applications that used special capabilities of the network, and they've generally found it requires a lot of telco knowledge and a close partnership with a network operator, at least one network operator. So everyone uses the network, but the network itself has been inaccessible and confusing to developers. The network is in a good position to help developers like you, though. It knows an awful lot about your users, and it can help you build a more tailored experience. It can distribute your content more effectively, it can facilitate rich communication, and it can be a centralized place to execute your transactions and establish trust. So that's the mission of our new team. We're here to give developers access to these capabilities through a series of web services. That way, developers don't need to know all the complexity of the network. They can be exposed to just what they need. Until now, developers have been building cool, compelling mobile applications using the SDKs of intelligent devices like the iPhone. For example, an iPhone application can determine a user's location using Apple's Core Location Framework, or access the phone's contact list through the Address Book Framework. For a lot of scenarios, it makes sense to do that. For other scenarios, however, accessing capabilities through the network is the best solution. For example, if a developer wants to access an address book that's shared across multiple devices, or shared between a mobile phone and a set-top box, it makes sense to store it on the network. With network APIs, developers can do this with a simple, well-defined interface. Another powerful property of network APIs, though, is that these capabilities aren't limited to just the device. They can be accessed by your browser, your game console, your car, or any other connected device that can make HTTP calls. There's one problem, though. Even once every network begins exposing its capabilities through web services, what happens when a developer needs to access users across multiple networks? For example, what if a developer wants to determine the geographical location of a mobile user but doesn't know what network that user is connected to? Well, to help solve this problem, we're rolling out a service called the OpenAPI service to provide a unified network API endpoint. Developers will program to a single API, and our service will forward the call along to the correct network. Our service can adapt to the different ways that networks expose their APIs too, so developers only have to learn the API once. Our service is being designed around an innovative business model that generates revenue for developers, network operators, and third-party API providers without creating barriers to innovation. This is a really hard business problem to solve, but we think that our approach is unique, and we look forward to sharing it with you. As you can imagine, rolling something like this out is a lot of work. We have to align multiple network operators and lots of different internal products, and it's a very long process. So we're just at the beginning of the road. Right now, this service supports calls against Sprint's subscriber location services. Because of the business that we're in, we have relationships with every major network operator in the world. We're in negotiations with a selection of key operators right now who can help us make this unified API service more powerful. Thanks for listening to this very brief overview of our API approach. Stay tuned for part 2, where I'll be going into more detail about a few of our exposed APIs, location and SMS.